Hello everyone, and welcome to Politically Incorrect, RMU-TV's newest television show. My name is Eddie Shee, and over the next semester, my goal is to turn every single one of you watching into political junkies. Now, I know that might be a lofty goal, but I think it's safe to say that we have a political crisis on our hands in this country, especially amongst people around our age. Now more than ever, people are fed up with the system, and they're fed up with the politicians who serve them. It's easy to get lost in the landscape of American politics. So our goal for this show is to cut through the haze and bring you the clearest, most factually accurate information regarding politics we possibly can. Every week we're going to pick a topic, and we're going to dig deep to find you, our viewers, everything you need to know to make an informed decision on that issue. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, 2016 is an election year. It's just under 10 months, and then we're going to be picking the next president of the United States. The future of our country is in our hands, and our ability to make an informed decision when it comes time to vote will literally change history. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. All of us here at Politically Incorrect are going to give you information and tools that you need to make an informed decision. A spoiler alert, at no time, if you're wondering, are we going to advise you to vote for Donald Trump. So let's get that out of the way right now. Now today, we want to talk to you about one of the most hotly debated topics of this year's election, immigration. You've no doubt heard a lot about immigration, but what I want to talk to you about right now is what our current immigration process is like. We've heard everything from the current system is too easy, that it's easy to bypass, and that it allows underqualified people into our country, to complaints that it's way too complicated, and that if it were easier, more people would be able to come into our country legally, therefore solving the immigration problem. It's hard to tell who's right and who's wrong, so let's walk through this process that every single United States immigrant must go through together, step by step, and at the end, we'll let you make the decision from there. So here's how that process works. It starts with a first step. No matter the person, age, country of origin, or employment status, the very first step is to submit a petition for U.S. citizenship. This first of many forms literally is nothing more than a document with the person's name, country of origin, and a few other details such as birth date and employment status. Virtually everyone's petition is accepted as long as the form is filled out correctly. And in total, the process takes relatively short time when you're talking about immigration, maybe a month or two. Now, after that, you move on to an official second step. That next step is to apply for an immigrant visa for permanent residence, a process that takes anywhere from 8 months to an entire year. Those seeking citizenship must fill out yet another form. You're going to see that that is a theme throughout this process. Submit it to a consulate in their country of origin, pay a fee, and then go through an interview with a consular officer who asks questions about the applicant's background. The officer then makes a decision on whether or not to grant a visa. If you get the visa, you're advanced to the next step. If you're denied, your journey to immigrate to the United States has virtually ended before it even really begins. I know it hasn't begun yet. Now let's say that that person got through that year and they emerge with a visa. That person now has to take that visa, submit it alongside another application form, and then their entire life goes under the microscope. Financial histories are examined, any potential ties to criminal activity are explored, family members are researched. It's a thorough look into that person's life, and going through the process allows the United States access to virtually any information they deem necessary to make a qualifying decision. Now, if they can't find anything in a history, the document and visa gets pushed along one step further, bringing them to technically the fourth and final step. Now, this final step, for many, is the most difficult and subjective of the entire process because this potential immigrant needs to be faced with an interview at this point. Now, during this interview, candidates are asked about their intentions, their reasons for leaving their country, their reasons for wanting to enter the United States, and then they have to take a test on intermediate United States history. Now, after all that, if the interviewer deems the potential immigrant fit to enter the United States, they're then granted U.S. citizenship finally. The entire process to enter the United States is exactly that. It's a process. All in all, it takes an average of 2 years for someone outside of the United States to be granted U.S. citizenship. In some ways, it might make sense to have the immigration process that lengthy, but overall, the process can be largely flawed. It's not hard to see that it favors a certain type of person. Filing for U.S. citizenship can be expensive, and the length of time it takes to complete can make it impossible for certain people trying to enter our country. The most recent example of this being issues surrounding certain Syrian refugees and their desire to enter the United States. For them, 2 years is an impossible amount of time to spend in their current situation. And for some, coming here illegally is the only option. Now, I can't tell you how to vote, and during the show, I never will. But as we begin to look more deeply into our presidential candidate's plan for this country's future, we need to put a special emphasis on this issue of immigration. Not to be melodramatic, but people's livelihoods and futures are literally at stake with this issue. And it's an issue that's been on the back burner for far too long. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to be continuing our conversation on immigration. Our politically incorrect correspondent, Sam Predabon, has traveled a long way to get you the scoop on Donald Trump's immigration plans. And then later in the show, we'll be sitting down with Rick Moslin here from the Center for Global Engagement to talk to you about how you, as part of the RMU community, can get involved with the larger global community.
These boys are my heroes. They come every week to spend time with my children.
There you go.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
They can teach them something no one else can.
Wisconsin.
They're role models to the children, and homework comes way before sports. Their grades have improved, and their lives are just a bit richer.
Okay.
What they do for my kids is truly wonderful.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
I call them my lifeline.
Of course, I am here with Romo. How are you doing today, Romo? Great. All right, so Romo, just a few questions. How do you think the game is going right now for the Colonials? All right, on top of that, what do you think about the play of Paul Jones and his defense just demolishing Morgan State right now? All right, well, you heard it here first. Romo with his insight to the game. Back to you guys.
Be sure to tune in to Colonial Sports Center every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. on RMUCentralMedia.com and Channel 98 around the Moon Township area.
Welcome back to Politically Incorrect. Today's episode is all about immigration. It's an important topic, and it's one of the biggest issues facing our country today. It's also a hot-button issue in this upcoming election. On both sides of the aisle, we've been hearing about the numerous ways politicians plan on solving this problem. But perhaps no one has been more vocal and more radical on the issue than Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. Now, we've been hearing a lot about what Trump plans on doing if he were elected, but it's easy to get lost in the mountain of information or misinformation we've been given. So, we sent our own politically incorrect correspondent, Sam Predabon, all the way down to Mexico to get the full scoop on what is going on. Sam, can you hear me?
Hey, read the sign. Get out. I can hear you loud and clear, Ed.
All right, great. Sam, thank you for going down to Mexico for us. Real quick, can you tell everyone what you're doing there right now?
Well, Eddie, I've been paying close attention to the election here over the last few months, and I've got to tell you, I've just been so inspired by Donald Trump and all of his prolific ideas on immigration that I figured I might as well head on down to Mexico and start building his Great Wall to keep illegal immigrants out of our country. You know, because the wall is the most effective way to do that.
Sam, that doesn't sound quite right to me. We'll get to that in a minute. I have a few questions for you. Do you think you could take a break from building the wall to answer them for me?
Absolutely, Eddie. Shoot.
All right, first off, let's start with this question. We both know that this is an ambitious project, to say the least. It's definitely not going to be a cheap one. I've seen a few different estimates on what this would cost. Can you give us an update on that, though?
Well, in the Secure Fence Act in 2006, the Bush administration built about 670 miles of fencing on the U.S.-Mexico border. That fencing cost a small sum of around $2.4 billion. Nothing for our rich government. Experts say that the $2.4 billion only covered 1/3 of the border and only the easier parts. Money well spent. Now, this is where we run into some problems. The border is about 1,300 miles. The wall would cost about $16 million per mile, which totals to between 15 and 25 billion. Billion, Ed. Billion, with a B. On top of that, the U.S. government would have to pay about $750 million a year just to keep the wall maintained. Then, add the cost of manning the wall with security personnel. All in all, a reasonable sum for the added protection against the constant threat of illegal immigrants coming over to do those jobs we citizens don't want to do.
So what you're telling me is this wall would pretty much cost what Donald Trump's entire net worth is. So far it's cost what his net worth is, but you know, it would be about $25 billion maybe to do that?
Well, about 25 billion.
Boy,
give or take a couple of
give or take a couple of billion
here and
dollars. All right, well, how long do you think this project would take to complete?
Well, I asked the foreman a little bit earlier, and he just shook his head and walked away with a really heavy sigh. That's never a good sign.
No.
The last time, the fence took about 3 years, but keep in mind, U.S. workers will not be building the wall. Donald Trump says Mexico will be building the wall, and with the power, speed, and skill of Mexican labor, I'm going to say about 3 to 4 weeks. Those guys work fast.
I don't think that they work that fast, Sam. Do you think this wall, honestly, will even be effective? I mean, is the current wall effective? Do we even know that?
Well, judging by the fact that this wall behind me is going to be solid concrete and 12 or so feet tall, I want to say it's going to be an effective way to keep out those dangerous illegal immigrants. I want to say that, but those guys can be crafty, you know? Thanks to Mr. Trump opening our eyes to the fact that most of the illegal Mexican immigrants are rapists and criminals. I feel safer already knowing that he's taking the time and money out of Mexico's economy to build this wall.
Sam, I just want to clear something up for you real quick. Not all Mexican immigrants are rapists or criminals or murderers. In fact, almost none of them are. There's no proof to what Donald Trump said there. So just so we're clear on that. Now, Donald Trump seems pretty sold on this wall, but is he looking at any other options to fix the immigration issue, or is this wall really the only option in his eyes?
The genius that is the mind of Donald Trump has many ideas. The wall just happens to be the best so far. I've only heard one other alternative, and that is that Trump will charge Mexico 100,000 US dollars for every illegal immigrant that they have sent over or are going to send over. According to Mr. Trump, and I quote, now they as in Mexico, make so much money that that's peanuts. I could have made it higher, but I'm nice. I'm in a good mood today. That's a pretty expensive bag of peanuts there. Thank God he was in a good mood. I'd hate to see him mad.
Yeah, I think we could both agree on that, Sam. But that brings me up to another really good question. How does Donald Trump plan on getting Mexico to pay for this thing?
Well, as far as I've heard, he plans to seize the money that illegal immigrants try to send back to their families in Mexico. As you are well aware, the illegal immigrants make copious amounts of money, so much so that the money they're sending back would most certainly pay for the wall. I literally see nothing wrong with this plan. If worse comes to worse, Donald Trump can just ask his dad for another small loan. Worked before, why not this time?
All right, Sam. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time we're going to have, buddy. Thank you for doing that. When you come back to the studio, though, I think me and you need to have a conversation.
Sure thing, Ed. I'm off to make America great again.
Good luck with that, Sam. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to be sitting down with the Center for Global Engagement Manager, Rick Moslin, to talk to him about opportunities you as a student may have to also travel around the world. Stick around.
Interesting, of course. Sports. I am here with Romo. How are you doing today, Romo? Great. All right, so Romo, just a few questions. How do you think the game is going right now for the Colonials? All right, on top of that, like, what do you think about the play of Paul Jones and his defense just demolishing Morgan State right now? All right, well, you heard it here first. Romo with his insight to the game. Back to you guys.
Be sure to tune in to Colonial Sports Center every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. on RMU-TVmedia.com and Channel 98 around the Moon Township area.
To spend time with my children.
There you go.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
They can teach them something no one else can.
Wisconsin.
They're role models to the children, and homework comes way before sports. Their grades have improved, and their lives are just a bit richer.
Okay.
What they do for my kids is truly wonderful.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
I call them my lifeline.
Welcome back to Politically Incorrect. I'm sitting here with Rick Moslin, a manager at the Center for Global Engagement. Rick, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you coming on. Now, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about what the Center for Global Engagement is for any of our viewers who might not know?
Sure, yeah. So the Center for Global Engagement, we are in one of the houses down the hill from Hale Center. We're right in the middle house. I know a lot of students are probably thinking, why do we have those random houses on campus? That's where we
why.
work.
That's what they're for.
Yep. So we do two things. We work with international students on campus, but we also are in charge of all the study abroad programs on campus. So we bring students in and we send students out, basically.
Perfect. Okay, so let's focus on that study abroad program really quick.
Sure.
First of all, you guys are in charge of study abroad programs, as you just said. How do students get involved, basically, with the study abroad program? I want to study abroad. How do I do that?
Right. So it's as easy as showing up in our office or just sending us an email saying you'd like to meet with one of the specialists in our office. And you come down, we let you know what kind of opportunities are available. We have long-term study abroad programs. So those are anywhere from a semester or longer. We have partnerships with different universities all around the world.
Sure.
So because of that, students are able to study abroad, pay RMU tuition, but be on a completely different part of the world.
So where are some of these places that students, have gone in the past? Where in the world can you go if you want to study abroad?
Anywhere, because we do have partnerships with other third-party companies that provide opportunities literally all around the world. So we have a lot of students who go to places like Australia, the UK. We've had students study in Japan, places like that.
Would you say that it's a worthwhile experience for students to take advantage of?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, there are 196 different countries in the world.
Yes.
We live in one of them. If you've never left Pennsylvania, if you've never left Allegheny County, even students who've just traveled around the US, there's so much more to experience. And now, honestly, is the time they want to experience it. I mean, after you graduate, you're working jobs, you have families.
Sure.
You don't have time to really go abroad and live in a different place for a number of months. So now's the time to do it.
Now is the time to do it. What would you say are the kind of things students who go on these study abroad programs learn? What do they come back and say to you guys after they're done?
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to learn about a different part of the world.
Sure.
But you also come back learning a lot more about yourself. And not only that, but a lot of our students will view just their everyday lives a little bit differently. I can speak from my own experience studying abroad when I was in
You
college.
studied abroad.
I did, yeah.
Where'd you study abroad at?
So I did something called a semester at sea, which
Okay.
was 12 different countries. So it's
Oh,
like
all right.
study abroad, like as extreme as it gets. But I remember coming back, and this was like 2007.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back and just immediately was with a bunch of friends. Our very first day back in the U.S., we were at a sports bar, and we were just looking at all the different headlines on all the different televisions. And I don't know if you remember Paris Hilton.
Yes.
She's like
She's
the
still
original
around,
like
I think.
Kardashian.
Yeah, she's
kind of,
still
yeah.
around, I think.
But the headline on every single television was, Paris Hilton's going to jail.
Uh-huh.
And after being away for like 3 or 4 different months and just seeing the world and seeing how much is happening in the world,
Yeah.
you come back and say, this is really what people care about. This is the headline in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the US is an amazing country, and there's so much to experience, and there's so much that we do well, but there's so much that we have to learn from other countries, whether they're doing it better than us, whether they're not doing it better than us. And the only way to do it is to get out there and experience it.
No, absolutely.
So now's the time to do it.
That's a great message. So study abroad is definitely something students need to do. Get in contact with the Center for Global Engagement.
Absolutely.
If they're interested.
And we have short-term opportunities too. So if a student doesn't want to be away for 3 or 4 months, we have
Absolutely.
faculty-led programs too that go away for 2 weeks at the
doing
very end
one
of the
this
spring
summer.
semester. Awesome.
I'm doing
Where are you
one
going?
this summer. Ireland.
Perfect.
So there
yeah,
you go.
And that's a good start. Students come back from those trips and they just want to keep going away and finding ways to get out of the country.
That's what I did. I did it last year, and now I'm doing it again. So I'm a big
Awesome.
advocate for these study abroad programs. Study abroad students. Now, shifting gears a little bit, what other things do the Center for Global Engagement do around campus that students can get involved in? Maybe they're not ready to take that step to travel abroad yet.
Well, we have over 500 international students on campus, which is a great opportunity, not for just those students, but for students who are U.S. citizens. Not only get to know those students, but we have different events around campus that students can attend. The first Thursday of every month, we have what's called a global get-together.
Okay.
It's just an informal event, and it's at a different location every month, and we have free food, and
I was going
we
to say,
have
I think I've been to one, and you have food from all over the world
it's
there,
awesome.
correct?
Yeah. They
It's
do a great job
delicious,
with
too.
it. And yeah, it's just a really informal opportunity to meet new people, whether it be our international students or international faculty, just people from everywhere. So we have that. We also have a program called Global Ambassadors.
Okay.
So if a student registers to be a global ambassador and they're accepted, then the very next semester when our new students arrive, they're basically the point-to person for those new students when they have questions. And the questions could be anything. It can be, I need to set up a bank account. Where do I do that? I need to get a Freedom Card. Where do I do that? Things like that. So the Global Ambassadors will work with those brand new international students and just help them get acclimated to not just United States, but just university life too.
Sure.
'Cause, I mean, even for students who live down the street, their very first semester can be a little crazy and it's something different.
Absolutely, let
So-
alone coming from a different country. Do we have a
Right.
lot of students involved in that colonial ambassador, or in the ambassador program?
We
the
have
Global
about 10
Ambassador program?
students who we accept every
10
semester.
students are accepted every
Yep.
semester. And if you want to get involved with that, same process. Go down to the Center for Global Engagement down at the bottom of the hill.
Yep, we'll give you an application and yeah, get you going.
So overall, how important do you think it is for students to get involved globally? How worthwhile is it?
Well, having a global perspective, it's one of the key. It's one of the key points of really this university. Our last president, he wanted to make that an emphasis on being globally connected, because really, after you graduate, you'll realize we live in a world where everything is connected, not just within our country, but through the whole world. If the economy in China starts to tank, it affects the United States too. So really, now's the opportunity to get involved, to have that experience. Not only does studying abroad or being a global ambassador, not only does it look good on a resume,
Absolutely.
but it's a great experience. And really, you leave those experiences somewhat of a different person. So.
Well,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to throw this one final question at you. I don't know if you know anything about it, but we can't talk about international stuff without mentioning Jim Vincent. Does Jim Vincent have anything to do with the Center for Global Engagement, or is he just a crazy old guy who likes other countries?
Both, actually.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in charge and actually the coordinator for our International Rooney Scholar Program, which is something else that we do. So every semester we have 1 or 2 international scholars who come onto campus. One of the houses that are right next to ours, that's where that international scholar lives. Sometimes for the entire semester, sometimes for a few weeks. And he actually was a coordinator for that program. So he would get that scholar connected in with the university, with other faculty members, with other students, and things like that. So he's no longer our coordinator, but
he's still around. I'm sure he's still around.
Here and there,
so you said we have someone from another country who's on campus right now, correct?
We do, yeah.
Can you just tell us real quick a little bit about that person?
Yes.
And can we go meet with them if we wanted to? Anything like that?
So he's only here for another week, so you have to do it.
Do it quickly.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a fascinating guy. He's actually, his name is Misha Segal, and he was born in Israel, grew up there, moved to New York and then LA. So he's been living in LA for the last few decades, but he's a film composer. So if you go on his IMDb page, he's composed a lot, so he's composed film, he's an Emmy Award-winning composer, he's a producer, conductor, pianist, he's done a lot.
And he's on campus right now.
And he's on campus right now, and actually tomorrow, Wednesday, he'll be giving a lecture on music and film and how those connect. So I highly recommend students attend. It'll be really, really cool.
Absolutely exceptional. Rick, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being our first guest on Politically Incorrect. Now, coming up after the break, we have our final thoughts on Donald Trump. We'll be right back.
These boys are my heroes. They come every week to spend time with my children.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
They can teach them something no one else can.
Wisconsin.
They're role models to the children, and homework comes way before sports. Their grades have improved, and their lives are just a bit richer. What they do for my kids is truly wonderful.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
I call them my lifeline.
People don't realize how quickly you can end up on the street. One thing happens in your life, medical bills you can't pay, lose your job, and that's it.
At Robert Morris University, every student is expected to reach out to others.
We went to DC to work with the homeless. They sell a newspaper called Street Sense. Thought I'd help.
But if you want to give more, you can.
This person came up to me and said, get a job. And for 2 hours, I felt what it was like to be homeless.
Good morning. $1 help.
Some of the other students said, how can we change this? And I said, sometimes you can't change the world, but you may be able to change one person's world. My dream? Open a psych clinic for people on the street.
Change someone's life. It changes yours forever. Robert Morris University.
Thank you all so much for watching our very first episode of Politically Incorrect. Hopefully, I was able to teach you a thing or two on the great immigration debate. We're going to be back in just 2 weeks. Make sure you follow RMU-TV on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on all of our shows. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's episode. I've been your host, Eddie Sheehy. We will see you next time, but before we go, let's real quick check out one of Donald Trump's asinine tweets.